Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Naomi, and this is Mosaic in Progress. I have really been struggling with the podcast lately, just because of the software. If you've been following me for a while, you know that when I started this podcast, I started with Anchor. And Anchor got bought out by Spotify and was changed to Spotify for podcasters. And rather than having native recording within the app, was outsourced to Riverside, which is a very different recording setup than Anchor had. And you know that I have not been happy with it since that happened. And it has kind of come to the culmination because my last episode that was uploaded, I had recorded for probably a month, if not more, before I was able to upload it. I recorded the episode within Riverside. I tried to upload it immediately and schedule it, and it would not upload. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, I tried to upload it. I contacted Spotify for podcasters tech support, and they were absolutely no help. And it just sat there in my files for weeks, trying to be uploaded. And then one day, Spotify for podcasters just said, okay, we'll upload it. And it worked. Not really sure what happened that made it work. But I have I've pretty much I've just reached the end with both of those apps. I tried to record this episode all day today. I have fought with Riverside app all day today for it to work, and it cut me off halfway through this episode. So I am currently in the process of trying to find another platform to record and upload. And I appreciate you all who have stuck with me, sticking with me, because I know this has been a little bit of a journey with the lack of content. And if you're following me on social media, I've been uploading reels to TikTok and Instagram and Facebook to try to provide content when I have not been able to upload episodes. But that's not what you're here for. And I appreciate those of you who have stuck with me. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Naomi, and this is Mosaic in Progress. Today we're talking about the law of attraction and algorithms. And I let it off with Aleister Crowley for a very important reason that we're going to get into a little bit later. I have recently been reading a book called The Power, which is like the sequel to The Secret. I read The Secret in 2019 when I was like mid deconstruction. And I say mid deconstruction because 2019 was when I went full blown, like, let's see what I really believe. But I started my deconstruction in 2011, and it just like slowly culminated up to my eventually leaving the church in 2020. But 2019 was really the culmination of my deconstruction when I was really like, okay, what do I believe? What do these things mean? What do my beliefs mean? And really like put it under a microscope to see if what I believed even made sense anymore. And I was at like it was probably June-ish time frame when I read The Secret. And as I read it, I remember thinking as a Church of Christ person, and if you know nothing about the evangelical church, let me clue you in about something about the Church of Christ. They will not talk about the Holy Spirit. I have yet to meet a Church of Christ person who will actually have a discussion about the Holy Spirit. It's all throughout the Bible. The Holy Spirit is part of the Holy Trinity. They won't talk about it because they don't understand it, and it's too weird and esoteric and spiritual for them to wrap their little minds around, because they're very, very, very concrete in their beliefs. Everything has to be like evidence-based, physical, whatever. And the Holy Spirit is just way too out there for them. They cannot talk about it. They cannot talk about it. I've tried with so many people in the churches of Christ. My mother, my father, who would talk about anything about the Bible. They could not talk about the Holy Spirit. They could not. To this day, they cannot talk about the Holy Spirit. They don't understand it. They won't talk about it. And that's just typical within the churches of Christ. And so I read this book and I was like, oh, here's the missing piece. That's the Holy Spirit. Because up to this point, like a year and a half leading up to this, I had really been working on my prayers, praying the believing prayers. And the Church of Christ talks about this a lot. And a lot of evangelical churches talk about this a lot. That when you pray, you have to believe what you're praying for is going to happen, or it won't happen. I mean, it's just manifestation, New Age manifestation theory, just like believe it and it will happen. That's pretty much what the evangelical church preaches about prayers, is that you pray it and you believe it and it will happen. But if you pray it and you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. And there's like a whole lot of guilt about that. Like, why don't you believe it? Why don't you believe God will give that to you? But the whole believe what you're praying for and it'll happen thing, it's just manifestation. It's just that like law of manifestation that is preached in New Age circles everywhere. It's the same thing. They just attribute it to God instead of attributing it to just energy. But I had really been working on praying these believing prayers. And then I read The Secret and I was like, oh my God, this is the same thing. It's like the same thing. Cool. I can just work this into what I'm already doing. And I was like, this is what it's talking about. It's talking about this power, that flows through everything. That's just the Holy Spirit. This is what we read in the Bible. It's the same thing. And I was just like mind blown, really motivated, excited. And I started talking to people at church about it, which was a mistake. And hi, Beatrix. I don't know if this microphone picks up her meows, but she's very, very interested in being involved in this. So I started talking to people at church about it, and they were like, you're getting into the devil worshiping stuff. And I was like, it doesn't say anything about the devil. And they were like, this is worldly stuff. You're going to, lose your soul getting involved in this. And I was like, this is confusing. Because I'm reading this, and what it says makes sense. But I'm telling people in the church about it, and they're telling me it's dangerous. And I really struggled with that for a while. Because it was so far, like what I was being told and what I was understanding were at such a dichotomy. I could not reconcile them. And I started playing with the law of attraction. Because as I was reading it, it was talking about, just like finding the joy and having fun with it and this. And I was like, what if I just kind of play with it? Is that okay? I don't know if that's okay. Because I was raised in the evangelical church and I was told that you don't test God. You don't ask him for things just to see if he'll actually do it. And I was like, is this the same thing? I don't know. And so I started playing with it with my parking space at work. That was how I came to believe it, because I was having a lot of trouble with being at work on time and finding a parking space. And so I started just every single day, I would say I clock in at work on time today. And I would say in past tense, like the book teaches you. And I found my parking spot really close to the entrance in the F lot. And I would just feel really excited about that. I would build up my feelings of excitement and then I would go on about my day. And I turned a 21-minute commute into a 13-minute commute without changing my speed. Because I am autistic and I noticed my speed and I checked it and I made sure I was not speeding or changing how I was doing things. And I had the same parking spot every day. And I was like, there's something to this law of attraction and stuff. And one of the things that I realized is that as I have continued to observe it over the years, is that it's basically an algorithm. If you're on social media at all, you know what an algorithm is. The more things you interact with, the more like things that you are going to encounter. So if you post hateful comments on a video, you're going to see more videos like the one that you posted hateful comments on. If you're angry reacting a video, you're going to see more videos like the one that you're angry reacting. If you're laugh reacting a video, especially to mock it, you're going to see more videos like the one that you're laugh reacting. Whatever you interact with, you're going to see more of. And the law of attraction is like that. It's like the algorithm of social media. Whatever you interact with, you're going to see more of, whether you like it or not. And so whatever you think about, you're going to experience more of, whether you like it or not. And one of the things that I have recently realized, I've been watching The Big Bang Theory in the background while I'm working, because I have ADHD and I need background noise. And The Big Bang Theory is very validating for me because I am autistic and I very much relate to Sheldon. And seeing how Sheldon reacts to things and how much like me he is very validating for me. But it also is very much a mirror to how the law of attraction works. If you watch how Sheldon reacts to people, that's how the law of attraction works. Why would you interact with that if you didn't want to see more of that? You interacted with it, so I'm going to show you more of that. Why would you interact with it if you didn't want to see more of it? I don't understand. You interacted with it, so I'm going to show you more of it. That's how the law of attraction works. It is autistic like me. It's very literal. If you've interacted with it, that means you want more of it, so it's going to give you more of it. And that's something very important to keep in mind because it works with your algorithm and it works with the law of attraction. So what are you focusing on? How are you curating your own algorithm? Because I know personally, I'm not curating mine very well. I am very much focused on the fact that we have a felon, predator, rapist, idiot, terrible businessman, failed businessman for our president. And he has appointed to his cabinet equally, if not less, incompetent people. And that's who's running our country. And that occupies like 80% of my thoughts every single day. That there are ICE raids happening with unmarked cars and unmarked policemen, and people are impersonating ICE agents and police officers and just kidnapping and raping people, and we can't tell the difference because ICE agents refuse to identify themselves, and for some reason that's just okay. And that occupies my thoughts like 95% of my day. Like, what the fuck is happening in our world? What the fuck is even happening in our world? And I am not a person with a particular set of skills. If I was, I would do something about it. I am not. I am not even a person with a particular set of contacts and connections. I'm just a nurse. And I have a podcast that some people listen to. And I am watching my world crumble around me and people be mistreated and abused and my country fall into fascism. And I have no idea what to do about it. And that occupies my thoughts 95% of the time. And the other 5% is devoted to my work and trying to make sure that my patients are taken care of. My algorithm is fucked. And I keep reminding myself of that quote, don't turn a bad moment into a bad day. And it's like, what do you do when like there's fucking nuclear bombs exploding in your side window and you just have to go on about your day? And that's what I feel like. Is that everything is terrible all of the time, and I have to finish spreadsheets and complete workflow tasks and answer emails. And it's such a fucking surreal experience because when you read history and you look at like Nazi Germany and everything that was going on, you're like, what were these people doing? Apparently laundry and answering emails. Well, not at that point emails, but answering communications. Apparently that's what they were doing. Because what else do you do? And we have created a society where people cannot rise up, where it will have to get to the point where people are not eating for people to rise up, because we are so hanging in the brink of destruction every single day. Every normal person in your everyday life, we are on the brink of poverty and homelessness, that we just keep showing up to work and we make sure we show up to work, because if we don't, we're not going to eat. We're not going to be able to have a house. And so we have created a society that is incapable of rising up against its oppressors because we can barely survive. And those who have the luxury being able to protest shame those who do not have that luxury. And so we fight against ourselves again, because all those at the top want to do is make sure we keep fighting against each other, left versus right. Because if you're left versus right, or even left versus left, which we're really good at doing, we are really good at fighting amongst each other on the left, more so than the right. Oh my goodness, we're good at fighting amongst each other and shaming each other and beating each other down and saying, you're not good enough to fight with us. Don't share that person's art. Don't let that person in at the protest. As long as we're fighting each other, we're not fighting them, and they don't care. As long as we're ignoring them and the fact that they are the ones that are keeping their boots on our fucking necks. And as I look at the law of attraction, and I listen to Abraham Hicks content all the time, and it is a very individualistic mindset. And I feel guilty when I listen to that and I start leaning into that. Because it's individualism versus collectivism, right? Like, if I'm growing, what about the rest of the world? Which is why I quoted Aleister Crowley at the beginning of this episode. Because do what thou wilt is taken so out of context. It is taken as a selfish mindset, a selfish ideology, a selfish worldview. The entire point of do what thou wilt is that the world needs you to do what makes you happy. That is why you came into the world. Because the world needs whatever it is that makes you happy. So follow your joy. Because if it makes you happy, you are fulfilling a need in the world. And I think that's a really comforting and important thing to remember in times like these. Follow your joy. Because there's so little of it right now. What is it that makes you happy? What is it that turns you on and makes you feel alive? And yes, I said turns you on, and take that however you mean it. Even that way. Because sexual energy is creative energy. What is it that makes you happy? What is it that you want to do? Because if you feel like being selfish and pursuing what you want is abandoning what the world needs, you're wrong. Because the world needs your joy. And joy is the antidote to hate. Because joy is rooted in love. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. And there is so much hate, and there is so much fear, and the antidote to that is love and joy. So what is it that sets you on fire? What is it that makes you feel alive? What is it that is your greatest joy? What is it that you want to do? do what thou wilt. This shall be the whole of the law. Love is power. If you are disheartened by the hate in the world, may I invite you to bring the power of love into the world by following your bliss, by honoring your joy, by doing what thou wilt. And as you do so, I hope you'll join me again on the podcast as we both continue to work on our mosaic in progress. This episode is being recorded on Studio One. Shout out to that recording platform. It's the first time that I've used it. I am really struggling to find the best way to record and present this content to you, and I really appreciate those of you who have stuck with me as I'm struggling with these platforms. If you're not following me on social media, I am Mosaic in Progress on Facebook and Instagram. If you are on TikTok, I am also on that platform. It is standby. It is Naomi C. Taranis. That is Taranis. You can find me there. I post videos there of content separate, somewhat related to the topics that I post here. I really appreciate all of you that have continued to show up for me, those of you who share my podcast, those of you who send me feedback. I always welcome feedback. You can email me, mosaicinprogress@gmail.com. This has always been a labor of love for me. I was asked years ago to write my story. And years ago, I mean like a decade ago, people started telling me, please write your story. And I thought, no one wants to hear my story. And I didn't. And people kept saying the same thing to me. And I said, you know what? I'll start a podcast and I'll see if people actually want to hear my story. And if it gets enough traction, maybe I will write a book. And this has been such a validation for me and a blessing for me that people actually care about what I have to say about my life. And I'm so grateful to all of you who listen and all of you who have stuck with me. And I am hopefully going to be having even better content for you in the future as I find a new platform for hosting and recording. And thank you so much to all of you who have stuck with me. It's a little rambly and I apologize for that, but I'm very grateful to you, and thank you. And I will see you next time on the podcast as we both continue to work on our mosaic in progress.